Okay, next up is the species screen. Now, this is a big one. Now, as you can see here, I have a lot of people in my empire. Now, this will only ever show people in your empire. I should make that as the first point. So you can see here showing empire species. You can actually toggle it so that it's showing the galaxy species. So this is everyone else in the galaxy. I'm going to be scrolling for days, so I'm just going to stop that right now. But these are the ones in my empire. Now, as you saw in an earlier video, this is actually a machine empire. So anything that's organic is actually in the state of being removed from my empire. As you can see here, they're classified by the game as undesirables. Machine integration means they were organic and they have been essentially taken over by a machine entity. Assimilated, as you can see here. Assimilation is in progress. So these guys down here are mammals, but these guys up here are hive-minded. Now, hive-minded means that I can't actually take control of them, because for them to organize and work as a unit, they need to be part of a hive mind. Well, I'm part of a machine empire, so I can't be part of a hive mind. I can take over organics because they think on their own, and I can integrate them to my way of thinking, but hive minds I can't actually do. So, undesirables are literally, as you can see here, purge type chemical processing. So they are literally thrown into a burner and incinerated and provide a nice boost of energy to my empire. Now, this screen does show how many of every type of unit there is in the galaxy. So you can see here the dominant species is the rogue drones. They are machine units. They have machine integration. They have the highest amount of traits, highest amount of good traits of everyone in the galaxy. So pretty much I have spread them across the entire galaxy. The Rothak were the actual first species I declared war against and I started killing. I actually started integrating part of them into my empire as well. But what this screen also allows you to do is once you have trait points researched, regardless of whether you're a machine empire or you're an organic one, the traits that you picked up earlier on in the game, you can actually start editing. So, for example, my rogue drones when they started had 2 negative effects. After my first lot of research, I got rid of those negative effects. After my next lot, I added an additional effect of making them have power drills, so they're better at mineral production. Then again, I had more trait points unlocked, and in turn I also made them mass produced so that they're built faster. You can apply this to anyone. So for example, the Rothak, as I said to you, are ones that I conquered earlier on in the game. So this is a good example. I haven't actually edited them at all yet. So this is where I can create a template. Now at the moment you can see here what their name is, so I can actually rename them if I want. You can see how many trait points I have left to pick over here and how many points I have left to spend. So it's exactly like that earlier screen was. So I can actually remove one of these if I like. So at the moment, the leader lifespan for the Rothak Empire is -10. Well, machines are immortal, so I don't have to worry about them being, dying 10 years early. They can't die 10 years early because they're immortal. They're also repugnant. The ruler opinion impact is -25. The other species happiness is also -5. So if I click that, I've removed it. I can actually also remove that if I wish. So at the moment, I could make them cybernetic, adaptive, and conformists. So there would be no negative effects. Well, I mean, I could leave the -10-year effect back on there. They're not going to die. They are integrated into my empire. They're cybernetic. So... Oh, actually, no, they're not machines, are they? They're cybernetic. I do beg your pardon. So, they can die. So let's remove that. And we'll create a new template. So as you can see here, I am essentially editing their DNA. So it does change their appearance a little bit. So this is what they look like originally. Then after I make the modifications to their DNA, they're actually coming out a bit red and fiery, which is actually pretty cool, I have to say. Now, you can see here, there is a population of 99 of them in my empire. So I can apply this to these 99 if I wish. So apply the template, and now it will show you the distribution of them. So if I want, I can only change 22 of them, the ones that live on this planet. And you can see down here, it's going to cost me 4,381 resources. Now, it's not going to mean too much right now, until that's converted into an actual daily or monthly cost. But for the sake of argument, let's change all of them in my galaxy. So it's now going to cost me 7,993. Now, this will obviously go up and up and up and up the more there is in the galaxy. So if I was to make changes to my Rogue Drone Empire, it's going to take a considerable amount of time. So anyway, the 99 of them, if we apply this,
situation log updated.
It then updates the situation log. Now you can see here, species modification. It's going to take 6 months to actually change all these guys, which is fine. So if you hit the research there, it will pause anything else in the technology screen. So as you can see here, busy with the special project, species modification Rothak. So my society gets paused, and while my society is paused, the entire species is then modified, and any of those negative effects from the species screen is removed. You can also, the other good thing about this screen is you can change the rights. Okay, so what does setting rights actually do? So setting rights is the way of controlling the people in your empire. Now, for example, the battle bears, the ones I have selected here, were the original people that I started the very game with. As you can see, there is a very low population of 2. As my empire is expanded, the rogue drones are the main population for me, and they are the ones that have expanded across, which is why it's 695 here. But as a machine empire, I'm not organic, therefore I cannot grow. So some of these options in here will be a little bit limited. So let me pop over to a organic species. The Ixeldar are a species that I am recently conquered and started to assimilate and take over. As you can see here, they have a current right of undesirable. Now if I come across here into citizenship and look down the list, we can see what the different types of citizenship within my empire would mean. So machine integration, as we can see here, the next ones above are machine integrated. They have been assimilated and are part of my empire. If I mouse over it, it says all allowed populations of this species are fully integrated within the machine intelligence, assuming direct control. Now that means that anyone that is a machine integration is part of my empire and is treated as equally as anybody else within the machine empire. Assimilation, pops of this species are allowed, populations of this species are altered over time to better match the dominant species of the empire. Pops that are in the process of being assimilated will not produce any resources. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Your culture will adapt to service us. Now, whenever I take over a standard organic species, they're actually assimilated. So they go from an organic species to a cybernetic species. As you can see here, the example being this one hijam that I have would have been originally a organic species, and he's just been assimilated and converted into a cyborg, essentially. Once it is converted from an organic to a cyborg, it then starts working on the individual tiles that we saw before on planets. So it'll actually start working for me and producing resources for me. Next up is slaves. All population, or all pops of this species will be enslaved. Slaves have lower consumer good use than free populations. Freedom is an illusion. For some, this truth is more tangible than it is for others. Slaves, as you can quite rightly see, they are just another type of individual within your empire. I actually have no slaves at all in my empire. As you can see there, it's not possible for me because of the types of empire that I have. But you can have slaves in your empire should you wish. And last but not least, undesirables. All populations of this species will be systematically purged. Pops subject to purging, except neutering and displacement, have zero consumer goods use. State records do not recognize the existence of this species. So the Ixeldar, the ones I have selected at the moment, are actually are categorized as undesirable and are actually being removed from my empire. They are just being destroyed. Speaking of which, another type down here, as you can see, is purge type. They are being removed by purging. I have 3 different options for purging. At the moment, they are being chemically processed. Now, what does chemically processing mean? Affected populations' physiologies are prepared for integration with the energy grid, where chemical processes that sustain them are are redirected to enrich our energy stores. The process is fatal, but death comes slowly. They will soon attain a much more efficient form. Essentially, I'm throwing them into a big fire, and they are adding energy credits to my empire. So essentially, I've conquered this race. They are undesirable, and they are being burnt off. Their bodies are being burnt, and in turn, they're producing energy for me and adding to my resources. Yes, it's a wonderful world, this galaxy. The other 2 types of purging are extermination. Affected populations are systematically eradicated. This is the fastest form of purging available. The extermination squads are efficient. The dissolution of the entire populations naturally takes time, but they get the job done. That way, they are literally killed. They are killed quickly, and they can be replaced quite easily. And last but not least is displacement. Essentially, affected pops are expelled from our nation over time, left to find refuge outside our borders. It's not that we drive them from their homes are simply no longer theirs. They are literally expelled from our empire. They're not killed, but they have to seek refuge elsewhere in the galaxy. It takes a while because they won't actually disappear off the tiles until they have found somewhere to go, but once they've found somewhere to go, they will never return. There are several other people in the galaxy, so to speak, that will accept refugees in. It's another type of rights in here that is available. Just quickly going across the other ones. I don't actually have the options to view slavery type because I have no slaves, but you can have different types of slavery in your empire. So you can have slaves have equal rights, slaves have no rights. You can also have them so that slaves are essentially miners and they mine better than everybody else. It's a bit of a variety when it comes to slavery type. You have migration controls. I'll go through the rest of these quite quickly as a summary. Migration controls literally control whether the individual population can move from one part of the galaxy to another, from one planet to another. You can also arrange to have a migration control between your allies. So, for example, if your allies have a particular species, so if I look on this list, say my allies are actually Kroll, well, Kroll prefer continental worlds versus the Ixeldar, for example, if they were part of my empire, which prefer Arctic worlds. If I have the Kroll move into my empire, I can get them to colonize planets that are preferred by them. And that's literally what my migration controls enable. Population controls affects if your population can grow. As I'm a machine empire, I have population controls. I can't actually make a population grow within my empire because they are robots. I have to build them. If you're an organic empire, if you have no population controls, your people will literally just grow naturally. They will inhabit new tiles naturally. You won't have to build anyone. They will literally just start growing. There's no other way of saying it. Colonization rights, as you can see here, determines whether the species are allowed to board colony ships and settle in new worlds. Even though I've not quite got my head around this, even for my own species, I have colonization is forbidden. Even though if I build a colony ship and go and inhabit a new world with my machine empire, as you can see here, its colonization is allowed, but the only option I have here is colonization forbidden. So I have no idea how that works. Essentially, if you have multiple types of organics in your empire, in a normal organic empire, you can choose if you want to have them inhabit a new planet or not. In a machine empire, I have no option. I only have rogue drones or robots built on every new planet. Military service, again, species cannot produce any military leaders. nor are they used in armies. So my armies are entirely robotic and nothing else. Again, in an organic empire, you can change this around, so you can have, for example, slaves as part of your military service if you want, or take your pick. And last but not least, living standards. When it comes to living standards within my empire, I've literally just got drones. They are rogue drones, funny enough, so they are drones. But living standards is a way of affecting the general population as to essentially how they live, funny enough. In an organic empire, it makes a considerable difference for some of these. You can leave it as standard, there's nothing wrong with that. For example, chemical bliss is an option where everybody's essentially, as the name might suggest, living a life of chemical bliss. They are living a life of drugs, essentially, for the rest of their lives. Their consumer goods cost is considerably higher. Their happiness is, however, very, very high. But the amount of food they consume, the minerals they produce, the energy credits they produce, and everything else you can see on there is reduced quite substantially. Again, you could just go through these and decide which one you want to choose for your empire. And that is the species screen.